Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX ROCKS! Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the ETX ROCKS podcast with Boston Chris. We're sitting here at the Lone Star Music School right here in Longview, Texas at 313B High Street. And we're very thankful and grateful to the Lone Star Music School for sponsoring this episode of ETX ROCKS. Make sure you check out the Lone Star Music School on Facebook. And also go by and check them out in person. They have an open blues jam every single Monday night here, free of charge. It starts at 7 o'clock, usually goes till about 11 o'clock. And just announced this week, we have Miss Katie Lynn is going to perform live here at an ETX Kids party here on August 13th. That'll start at 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock. So make sure you come out to the Lone Star Music School right here in Longview, Texas. Jenn Ford has been a musician for over 30 years, performing in church, high school, college. She performed for the Army Entertainment Division, the U.S. Army bands worldwide. She is now back in East Texas, which she calls home, and is a local musician, supporter, promoter, and producer for ETX Music, and also one half of the co-hostship of the East Texas Music Awards with yours truly. It is going to be a lot of fun sitting here with my sister from a different mister, Miss Jenn Ford. How you doing today, Jen?
I'm doing really good. Just got done with Monday Music Outreach at the Boys and Girls Club.
In Kilgore. And who'd you have out there today?
Today we had Andrew Greer. This is his second time being out there. And
the Hallsville Hammer.
The Hallsville Hammer. Yeah, he played at the Junior Music Showcase at the T-Bone Walker Blues Fest. And since that meeting, we've made friends, and he's a really eager and talented young blues artist. And he likes coming out there, and the kids asked for him to come back, and he came out there today and showed the kids how to appreciate blues, what to listen for, all the different pedals, what the difference between an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar is, and I kind of guide that process to give the kids some real knowledge on how to appreciate music.
And how did all that start with the kids out there?
With the Boys and Girls Club?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was helping Jackie Clayton plan Porch Fest. And with his other team, I was a member of the team to help plan the festival, and thought it was a good idea to bring in like a charity and to raise some money and get some awareness. And Neil Laney donated a guitar, and we raffled it off and gave the proceeds to the Boys and Girls Club. Well, with that process, I went over there to make sure that they wanted to accept the donation, and was like, hey, these guys want to give you some money. What do you need? What are some items that you may need? Would you like a booth at the festival? And just kind of formed a relationship with them. And it was at the end of the school year, and I said, so what do y'all do typically during the week? And she was telling me about the activities that they do, and I said, do you guys ever have guests come in? And she's like, yeah, sometimes the fire department or, local whatever come in.
Right.
And I said, do you guys ever have musicians? And she said, no, we don't have musicians. And I was like, why not? Right. I mean, that seems like a fun thing to do.
Absolutely.
And I bet you that we can get some people on board with that, because it just fosters a good relationship with the community, and lots of artists want it to inspire younger kids.
Yeah, it gives back.
Yeah, a lot of different ways. It's a lot of fun. It's a break from their normal routine.
Absolutely.
And it's easy to do. All it took was someone coming out there. So that spawned the Monday Music Outreach program that we've done for the last 2 months. Every Monday we go out there right after lunch, and for about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours tops.
And you usually have 2 musicians out there, right?
Mostly. We have done just one, but it's usually 2 because it just gives some diversity.
Right.
It does, people get bored.
And when are you planning on stopping that program? Or when does it end?
It ends it ends at the end of July. So we're almost done. Yeah. I think we should be done this week. So. And
what's next after that? I know you always have something working.
I always got something working. I'm not sure. There's a couple businesses that want to donate now, which I think is good, to the Boys and Girls Club, to help out with like supplies and maybe school supplies. We've been talking about having a school supply drive, but it's kind of late in the summer to get that started. But I've had a couple charities reach out to me since then, which I think is good, because it seems like that they were in need of a little bit more support from the community. So
And since we're talking about the Boys and Girls Club, and in case someone's listening out there wants to help out, where can they send donations or get more information?
well, they can reach out to me and I can put them in touch with their director, and they have like a board of directors as well. And basically it's a 501c. It's a national organization.
Right.
And you donate, and it's 100% run on donations. So the building is provided, I think, by an organization, but anything that they get, like they use the East Texas Food Bank for all their food. Yes, they do take tuition for the kids,
Right.
but that basically pays the expenses of the program directors and the people that are there to actually monitor and teach the kids.
Can people purchase school supplies and just bring them to the
Yeah,
Boys and Girls Club
I'm sure
Center,
they
do you
can.
think?
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about doing like a community school drive, because most of the kids that are there in the summer, not all of them return for the after school program.
Right.
So anything really, sports equipment is what they really could use. Sports equipment new, like desks and tables, art supplies, stuff like that. They need
So if you guys out there are listening and you want to give back and you happen to be in the Kilgore area, just go by the Kilgore Boys and Girls Club, and I'm sure the director there can get you a list of things they could use desperately, I imagine, because I know a lot of those places are real low on funds and could always use more. But we're here to talk about Jenn Ford's music career. I know there's a lot of different aspects to Jenn Ford and a lot of different layers, and music is just one of those. So where did you grow up?
Carthage, Texas, the big metroplex right there in Panola County. My parents moved there from Houston when I was little, so I grew up there. I graduated from there.
Okay, so pretty much your entire childhood was right there in Carthage?
Most of my childhood, yep. Most of my formative years was spent in the big metroplex of Carthage, Texas.
What was your childhood like out there?
Well,
small town Carthage.
There's 4 kids in my family. I'm the oldest, and so there was a lot of karate chopping going on. My mom and dad have been married for almost 40 years, and I'm 38, so they've been together a very long time.
Oh, the math checks out at least.
Right. But my dad was in the service, and I think he wanted. He was from the Houston area, and he wanted to raise his kids back in East Texas because that's where his grandparents were from, and he wanted to get us out of the city and kind of give us a little bit more, I guess, organic place to grow up.
Yeah.
So they bought land, built a house. We had 2 big gardens. And
that's interesting. That's pretty much why I'm in East Texas.
Right.
I wanted to get out of that, too, for my kids.
Well, I think it definitely created a lot better relationships between me and my brothers and sisters.
I'm sure.
Because we had to entertain each other. We lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there was no other distractions, right?
No, we were pretty poor. There was 4 of us, so we were fighting over food most of the time.
And your dad was in the military as well?
Yeah, he was a Marine. I was born when he was still in the Marine Corps.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. So, I mean, was music always a dream of yours growing up? Or?
I have been doing some type of entertaining since the time I was born. I've always been the planner.
So you came out of the womb with like magic tricks ready.
Well, I wanted to be in the center of attention, not in a way that was like, look at me all the time, but it was like, how can I make you laugh? How can I how can I keep this going? How can I keep everybody smiling? And
they built social media for Jenn Ford.
Really, I wish I would have had that a long time ago. But no, I started like, my mom put me in dance class. I lasted 2 days because I was like, I already know how to dance. I don't need to take dance class. So that didn't work. But
why are they teaching me stuff I already do?
Yeah, I already knew how to do the moonwalk. I'm not that great of a dancer, but I took piano. I was in church choir, and then I was in high school band. I played the oboe, which I didn't really select that instrument, but my mom put it in my mind that was the only one, and so I would be an original person.
Right.
And believe it or not, I was pretty shy.
Guaranteed first chair, right?
Yeah, I was. I actually did really well, but was not my favorite thing to play. But I stuck with it all through high school. But I think my real love came out when I started singing in choir in high school.
Right.
I sang all 4 years of choir. I already knew how to read music, so that was to my advantage. But Tommy Corley was my choir director, and he taught us music theory. He taught us how to read. And I sang alto, so I had to harmonize. And singing next to my mom in church growing up too. She sang like every single part. She always changed it up, so I had those notes in my head, so it was easy for me to pick up.
So you were always singing, probably.
Always.
Just from the moment you discovered it.
Always. I used to get in trouble for playing.
So I also know you're a perfectionist too, so I'm sure when this all started, you were probably doing it all the time.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. I think one of the hardest things to do was to learn how to sing without a score in front of me.
Right.
And just listen to the music. So I think I learned how to do that later after college, because I went to Panola College on a music scholarship, was in the Pipers, was in all the little ensembles, junior college, honor choir, state of Texas, all that stuff. But when I started singing karaoke, that's when it
And everybody's in your ear. Oh my God, you should go on The Voice.
Oh, well, The Voice wasn't around then.
Yeah, I know. But
it always helped to
it
have. It
started with American Idol. It was like, you should go on American Idol. How about no?
Yeah.
How about I stay right here and sing karaoke?
Right. Well, I really didn't even start singing karaoke till in the military, because, being in Carthage, it was a dry town.
Right.
There were no bars.
Yeah.
There were no places to go.
Right.
I was at church.
And it's still that way, of course.
Well, they have alcohol at the AGB now. Yeah. I think they sell,
At the what?
The grocery store.
Oh.
They sell it there now.
Well,
after I leave.
I know about the American Legion and the VFW, and that's about it.
I've literally never been to either one of those places.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have either in that town.
I did not ever really party in Carthage, Texas. I was never really a bar fly.
I'm thinking people probably go somewhere else to party, would be my guess.
Guess what? I'm in Longview and Kilgore now, so.
How many events do you hear about coming from Carthage?
Not a whole lot. They do have the Texas Country Music Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but you don't even hear anything come from them either, really. Except their one thing every year.
Well, they have a lot of artists that are there. Like, I've been bringing Megan Lee a lot. The music programs are great. It's just that it's not mainstream music that's coming out of there. Yeah. It's a lot of Christian music.
I agree.
And they have the country music hayride downtown as well. But
so you went to college, and somehow you decided, I'm going to follow in Dad's footprints and go into the military.
Well, it was in Dad's footprints, but it was not Dad's wishes. I wanted to get out of East Texas and travel. I'd been my dream forever to travel and see the world.
So did you finish college and then do that? Or?
I just did 2 years, and I later went back. But I did 2 years of school and basically went and signed up because I wasn't doing so hot in some of my classes.
So U.S. Army, right? U.S.
Army. My grandpa was in the U.S. Army.
That's cool. So the third generation military person.
Oh, way more than that.
Really?
I think everybody's been in, at some point, every generation has been.
And were you the only one of your three brothers and sisters to go? Or?
No, my youngest brother went later. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He served in Afghanistan.
So it's just kind of a family thing, I guess.
Yeah, that or law enforcement, and I did both.
Wow.
So.
Well, I did not know that.
I was military police in the Army.
Oh, I knew that. I didn't know you were. Did you become police after,
or
was it just military?
No.
Right?
No, there's 4 police officers in my family now, but I don't know. I don't want anything to do with that. Too much party animal.
With your musical background, what was your, job description in the military?
Well, I was military police. I went to Korea, and I did all the grunt work as, shooting stuff and learning all the law enforcement tactics and living out in the woods and all that stuff. But I was still singing a lot in my room and had a guitar. And I found out about the Army Soldier Show from one of my drill sergeants, and I was kind of keeping track of that. And it was sort of like an American Idol format. Like, you send in tapes and then you go and audition. And in 2001, I auditioned. And after I'd been in the service for almost 3 years, and I made it, and they took me to Washington, D.C., and grouped us up with a bunch of people from all over the military. It was like a special duty assignment for about 8 months, and we traveled all over the world. I did 106 shows, 55 destinations.
Wow.
And this was during September 11th. We were on tour.
Wow.
So that was crazy.
So how many continents have you performed on?
Continents? Well... How about countries?
Let's go countries.
United States, Japan, Korea, Germany, France, Italy, Iraq, Qatar, I've been to Hawaii, I've been to Guam, and probably about 40 of the U.S. states.
Wow.
I was at the top of the World Trade Center.
I counted 3 continents.
I don't know.
I think Europe, Asia, and North America.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas...
And the South Pacific, but
yeah,
that's not really a continent.
No, not really. But Qatar and Iraq are real close to Africa, too, so we can almost give you 3.5.
Almost.
Yeah.
It's basically a crap hole.
I can imagine. So what's it like? I mean, were you performing for other soldiers or?
Soldiers and their families, and performed for audiences as small as like 30 or 40 or up to 40,000 people, like in big arenas.
Did you do any shows that were actually for like local people?
Oh, yeah. Well, especially in Germany, a lot of that, the music was meant to be like, for us to be like ambassadors to them, to spread goodwill. Yeah. So we did like a lot of German festivals over there with huge, like a huge group of soldiers, get out there, sing and dance, live band. I mean, that's all I did for about 6 years of the total 11-year span I spent in the service. And I was performing with world-class musicians. These guys all had like master's degrees, bachelor's degrees, and they're still performing. If I could have retired as a performer for the military, I would have. And I would tell any high school kid that loves music, if they want to really perform, go in the military band, because you will get to see some stuff and play with some of the best people ever.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting way of doing it. It's not an everyday story.
Well, and I never knew it really existed. I wasn't paying attention.
Right.
Like, that's why I chose.
Well, I didn't either, and I mean, I was an Army brat too, so I mean, I didn't know all this until I met you.
Well, in every service, every branch had, like, the Marines have a Marine Corps band, the Air Force has their band, the Navy, they all have those, and those military bands were used a lot to spread goodwill and to raise morale. And so they play at military functions and do the typical marching style music, but they also do show band stuff. Like, I sang jazz, I sang country, I sang rock and roll, I sang Motown, I sang classical. I played drums in the military, and I'm not a drummer, but I played them. I learned how.
Holiday Inn Express last night, right?
I learned how to do it.
That's interesting. So you were in for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And I understand as part of the military life that you how would you say it? You got PTSD.
Yes. Well, the portion of my career that was music related was awesome.
Right.
That was the greatest part of my career. But there were pockets of things that happened before I joined the military band, and I was a victim of a sexual assault by another military service member, and I had to deal with that process all by myself because I didn't tell my family, even though I went through the legal proceedings, and because I was young, I was sort of ashamed, that this kind of stuff doesn't happen in our family, and I didn't really talk about it. So then I went on and got married and had kids and was doing music, and everything was happy. But when I had to go back to being a military police officer again and get into that really stressful environment, it was just sort of a reminder of what had happened before and all the things that I had gone through and dealing with the case and dealing with the whole situation. And the guy kept trying to contact me, was stalking me, and it was just like I couldn't erase it. And so that compiled with the divorce and the stress of just being separated from family and everything, it made me decide to get out. It was like, no, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd reached that moment where I was almost ready to retire. Only 9 more years I could have retired, and I was a staff sergeant in a really good position. Was leading like 30 or 40 soldiers, but I just was so distracted and emotionally worn out that I started to go to a place that I was really like... Yeah,
really dark place.
It was really dark.
Yeah.
And I'm me, and I'm not a dark person. I try to stay away from that. I try to stay positive, and...
but I also know you struggle with it.
Yeah.
And
there are times that I still struggle with it, but I see the patterns of like, I need to...
Yeah, you've definitely become more in tune with it for sure. Even, I've known you a short time as far as, lifespan, but And we've known each other just over a year, I guess, maybe a year and a half. But,
yeah, and I'm able to talk about it now. When I got out of the service and I came home, I immersed myself in school. I was going to be a nurse. I was living with mom and dad with these 2 small kids, totally different life. I'd been a rock star for so long, you know, big Jennifer, traveling all over the place, and came home and financially my life was a lot smaller. My circle of friends.
And you came back to Carthage?
I came back to Carthage. I wanted to be close to family because I felt like something was about to happen. And that was a huge adjustment because I'm the oldest, and coming home after basically 13 years of being gone, 11 of it service. My mom and dad weren't used to me as an adult.
Right.
And then when I started to get a little bit stressed out, I was taking all these classes at school, and I opened up to my parents. It was just, they were in shock. Like, they didn't know how to deal with this version of their daughter.
Right.
And they'd never seen me struggle like this, like with insomnia and depression. And I mean, I remember, I think it was in 2009 or 2010, I can't remember. I think the fall of 2010. I'd been home for about a year, but I was struggling. And it could have been in the fall, I'm not sure. Anyway, I was in class, and I blacked completely out. Like, it was like a big wave took over me. I didn't have any control of my body, and I immediately called my mom, and I was like, something is really wrong. I've never felt like this. And I had to go to the VA. I took myself to the VA, and that's when the process started. I went in for like 2 or 3 days, and that's when I actually started to get real help consistently.
Right.
And I mean, I still seek help. I go to my therapist, you know, once or twice a month, and it's just an open conversation. It's a relationship that I have with her that I trust, and she knows everything, and I can totally lay it out on the line. But it was a big obstacle in my life to overcome.
And would you say, you know, that situation happening to you, would you say that's part of the reason why you've become such a big advocate for so many different things? I mean, I know you have a huge heart, you know, and I've seen you become an advocate for so many different kinds of charities or whatever you want to call it, you know, from breast cancer to kids to PTSD to military to all of this. So would you say that one thing that happened to you is kind of led you to that role?
I think definitely. I would say, I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the Indian chief telling his grandson the story of the 2 wolves. Like, there's the white wolf and the black wolf, and the white wolf represents everything positive, like charity, honesty, integrity, hope, love, and then the black wolf represents all of these negative things like depression, anger, you know, all the terrible things, like the internal fight against good and evil. And he tells him the story, and then the grandson is like, well, which one wins? And he goes, whichever one you feed. And that is like totally how I feel. If I dive into that negative zone, and sometimes I feel like, oh no, I'm starting to think these negative thoughts, it's like Pandora's box opens, and all this crap just starts flooding out. So the best way for me to not drown in that place is to go feed positive energy to the lighter side of things. And that means giving back, that means doing music, that means worrying about what other people taking myself out of the equation and looking at other people's lives, because everybody goes through something.
Right.
And I would say that period of time where I was really struggling with PTSD was about 2 or 3 years where it was really difficult, and it kept just flaring up, and it was more like I was always on guard. I was real abrasive. I was kind to my kids, but everything was very irritating. I was having trouble sleeping, all that stuff. But once I really started getting back into music, just here and there, singing at church, singing with groups, singing in the shower, playing a little bit of music, and then finally joining a band in this area, I think that is what gave me an outlet. And I started to realize, you know what? It doesn't matter how many different things I try to do in my life. Music will always come back into it. Music has always been there for me. Music has always been a part of me. Why do I keep denying myself and say that, oh, well, that's not a real job, I need to put away?
It's almost like it's one of the only things you can trust, really.
Really?
Is music.
I do think that, because I've had, several failed relationships, and a lot of people with PTSD do have trouble with intimacy,
Right.
because especially from sexual assault. But I'm not even so much talking about the physical side of things. I'm talking about emotionally being able to trust.
Absolutely.
And not pull themselves way back. So music was kind of like the home zone for me.
Right. It's kind of your go-to place, your safe place.
I can't do anything around the house unless I have the radio playing. My house would be a disaster unless I turn the radio on. I can't go to the gym without playing music.
Right.
I get so frustrated if my phone is dead and I'm on the treadmill. I'm like, I can't. There's no way I'm going to be able to do 2 miles. But
right.
Anyway.
So we mentioned, you just mentioned joining a band. And I know we mentioned a lot of genres, or I should say you mentioned a lot of genres as part of your Army thing, but you did not mention metal.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the first band is Jenn Ford comes back, and the first band is metal. So
well, and
how?
Well, a friend of mine, my best friend in the whole wide world since I was 7 years old, knew a guy named Randy Rainwater, and he was the drummer for a band called Lowdown, and he had started a new project with he was going to play bass this time. He had a drummer, he had a vocalist, but they needed a vocal coach. And I did that before a lot in the military. I was assistant vocal coach or assistant vocal director for the Army chorus in Europe. So I was like, yeah, that's cool. I've never seen, maybe, I don't know what I'm going to be teaching him because I didn't really listen to metal.
Right.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's just I was always somewhere where it wasn't.
Right.
So I went over there and listened to them, and I was really, really paying attention to stuff and trying to make it educated.
Kind of learning on the fly.
Yeah, I was learning on the fly, but I was also trying to give them something they could understand in terms they could understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I was working with him, and he kind of fell through after like 2 or 3 lessons. So Randy calls me, and he's like, hey, I know you've been kind of helping us write a little bit of the lyrics and write some of the music for the vocals. Would you be interested in trying out as our singer? And I was like, what else I got to do? Yeah, let's do it. Yes, let's just try it. I have nothing to lose. So for about 4 years, that's what I did. And I wrote a lot of music, and it was a lot of angry music, and it was really actually pretty good for me.
And what was the PG name of that band?
Bleed the Rain. Yeah. Die-hard fans call it something else, but we won't discuss that.
Right.
But I went like full on as ridiculous as I could. I felt like that if it was heavy metal, it needed to be a show. It just didn't need to be background music. So I made costumes. We had props. I cut my hair. I did a bunch of crazy stuff. I was real animated on stage, and I was, if you could think about in this moment with a fatter lady up there doing it, that was me. And my vocals are a lot cleaner than hers, but I learned how to scream a little bit. And, it was a lot of fun.
I heard that firsthand not too long ago at the Red House.
Oh, yeah. But it was a lot of fun, and I made a lot of really good friends, and I think that is what helped me get into the local scene is being around other musicians.
Right, it catapulted you into the know-how.
Yeah, and then I started booking for places like Tipsy Gypsy. I booked for them for about 6 months before they closed down, and I got to meet a lot of musicians, and I went out and supported a lot of other musicians, and that got me comfortable with going to different venues because by that time I moved to Longview, and I was seeing that there was a music community here because it was real hard to imagine in Carthage, Texas, that there was a music community other than Christian music or country music. Right. And there is so much music here. Right. A lot.
Of every single genre.
You
and
name
caliber.
It, we've got it.
People don't realize that, and that's part of our focus. It's a major part of the focus, both you and I, and Nathan, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Is making sure people know.
And I think that I started to see the value of, I like to sing, but it doesn't matter what I sing. I just like to do it. I started seeing the value of promoting other people because everybody needs a platform. Everybody needs a cheerleader, and I like being a cheerleader. I mean, I ain't gonna fit in the suit, obviously, but I like to cheer for other people.
Well, it's not just that, but one thing I know you know this, but one thing that's pretty readily apparent as soon as you start trying to promote is, a lot of these bands and musicians they don't feel comfortable tooting their own horn.
Right.
You know, and so it becomes an important role for what you and I do in tooting their horn for them and making sure people know.
I think, and that's something that I learned as a musician as well, is that if you don't put yourself out there, then people are not going to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And not every musician has the, like you said, the comfort, the skills, or the conversational ability to get out there and put themselves out there. And maybe they need just a little bitty push or whatever, but I'm not afraid to talk to anybody.
No, me either.
And I think I learned that you have to put yourself out there very early on when I was scrambling for solos in the Army Entertainment Division, because there were some stellar people performing, and they were cutthroat sometimes. I mean, not everybody loved each other, but if they wanted a song, they were going to go out there and take it.
Yep.
So I had to get on my game really quick to be able to be competitive, and it was a friendly competition. So that helped me.
Well, that's another cool thing about East Texas musicians is, you know, by and large, most of them support each other too, which I love that about our community here. And you know, it's like if one of them happens to have a night off, they're always at someone else's show on a Friday or Saturday. And I always think that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go out and support other people because you want them to come out and support you.
Right.
You can't be stuck up about it at all,
absolutely.
really. And if you form a good relationship with these other musicians, then you can trust their critiques to be honest.
Right.
Everybody's trying to make each other get better. It's not a competition in a way that somebody's better or worse. It's a competition in a way that we stay on top of our game.
Right. Exactly.
Because we know they're going to bring
Speaking of
it.
the promotional side of things, how did you get involved with ETX Music?
Ha! Well, I know that's a rhetorical question.
Well, I know the answer, but people out there may not know the answer.
Well, I started performing with Rio Wallace, and obviously I needed some help with the booking and stuff because I was so busy. I was doing 2 bands and working full time. So I reached out for management, and then it turned out to be you. And you and I both had a similar mindset on, like, go out and get it. And we started going out and getting it. And then
still are.
Yeah, we are. And I think that's what East Texas needed, is people who aren't afraid to go out and get it. And I mean,
well, what did we say shortly after we met? It's turning those why nots into what ifs.
Yeah.
Or what ifs into why nots. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What ifs into
I mean,
why
everything
nots.
starts with an idea.
Right.
Nashville started with an idea. Hollywood started with an idea. Austin started with an idea. New York. I mean, it has to have some spark somewhere. And no, we don't have any money. Okay, whoop-de-doo. That doesn't mean that I haven't done amazing things in the last year and haven't been able to do a lot with a little, because I think it's a positive thing, and we're showing positive growth. We're inspiring other people to get out there and use social media, especially.
Absolutely.
Because nobody from this area was probably using it as a tool like they can. A lot of people get turned off by electronics, but this is the way people communicate, and this is the way news is spread.
It's come so far since we started last year.
Oh, yeah.
You know, after the awards in October, when we started doing those little videos with people, you know, now, you know, it's super cool to see somebody put a video out like that. You know, maybe they were inspired, maybe they weren't, but, you know, prior to us doing that, there was nobody doing that here in East Texas.
Yeah, they weren't. I think a lot of people traditionally are private, and they feel like, well, I don't want everybody to know my business. But in the music industry, you don't have the luxury of being private. If you're a performer, you have to put yourself out there. You can have a freaking Picasso hanging in your closet, but if nobody sees it, they're not going to know how awesome it is.
Personally, I just think it's easier to hit record than having to type out the whole thing in a post, you know?
Yeah, I've learned that too.
Yeah.
But I try to make mine, I put posts up probably 2 or 3 times a week. I try to make them short and sweet because people probably get tired of me.
Yeah.
If they get tired of me, they'll take me off the friends list. That's fine.
Well, you don't need them.
I get about 100 friend requests a day anyway from
lucky
weirdos.
you.
Weirdos.
Yeah, all with
if you're a weirdo, you can't be friends with me because I'm going to screen you.
With those funny names, I've seen them. Yeah.
Well, I don't get any explicit pics anymore now that cons are around.
Well, I never get those.
Oh, I got a whole slew of those in the beginning.
But yeah.
But I'm excited.
I don't get 100 a day, but I could probably get about half that. Yeah. Not bad for a guy,
slowed
I guess.
down. It's slowed down.
It's going to pick up again in a couple months, like it did last year. What was post awards like for you last year?
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was a huge surprise. I was very excited to do it. I'd never emceed an actual event like that. And
it was a lot of fun.
I think just going up there and not necessarily, we were winging it, but
Yes.
I feel comfortable in front of an audience, and I try to make the audience feel comfortable when I'm singing, when I'm talking, whatever. And if the audience feels comfortable, then they're more receptive to what you have to say. So
if you guys are listening out there, you now know that Jenn and Boston were winging it last year. That's right. When we went to the award show last year, guys, we were stage managers, which means backstage managers. We were not supposed to be seen, but there were certain circumstances that pulled us out onto the stage, and what you saw was us winging it. And this year we are ready. This year we are not winging it. So if you guys enjoyed last year, make sure you come out on September 16th, because Jenn and I are ready, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be not winging it.
I don't know, maybe we should just try wing it again.
Well, all I know is I'm not going with any more Kanye jokes.
No. Yeah, you know what's funny is a lot of the artists have talked to me about, like, I can't wait to go up there and make a Kanye reference. I'm like, don't do that.
Boston already did that.
Don't do that. It's not funny. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
But I think that once you and I showed how excited we were to be there, and then we were telling people, then that raised awareness and more awareness, and it's just kind of been a snowball effect since then.
Right.
And because of Nathan allowing us to take some liberties with some things on stage, we got to be friendly with each other, and now we're really good friends. Like all three of us are great friends, and
the three amigos.
Yeah, we have similar vision, and even though a lot of times I say I work for Nathan, it's really we all work together.
Yeah,
he doesn't really tell me what to do.
Yeah, nobody really works for anybody, to be honest. You know, it's just, we all individually have our own ideas, and I mean, typically a good idea is brought forward by all three of us. Sure, it's Nathan's brand and he has to okay the idea, but I know he's never shot down one of your ideas. He's never shot down one of mine. As long as it's a good idea, Nathan's for it.
Yeah. And I think once he saw that we weren't gonna put anything negative up, then he felt a little bit.
Well, both of us had to earn his trust, because he had that vision of PG and that we both struggle with sometimes, trying to make sure there's no beer in the background.
Well, I think my heavy metal days have, are a fond memory.
Yeah.
But the acoustic stuff I'm doing now is a little bit easier to swallow for most of my fans, and it's a little bit more mainstream, so I could pull off the transition.
Well, tell people where they can find you as far as social media.
Okay, well, I'm on Instagram. I don't know. I think it's Jennifer Ford Carruthers. I know I have like a bazillion names, like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, but
yeah, it's hard for me to keep them all.
Jenn Ford, that's it.
If you look for Jenn Ford, I think on pretty much any social media, you're probably going to find
Jenn
her.
Ford ETX, I think. It might be Jenn Ford ETX VIP on Twitter.
I think that's Twitter, yeah.
And then Jenn Ford is my musician / entertainer / whatever page.
Yeah, on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have ETX VIP. So tell people what ETX VIP is.
ETX VIP is whatever you want it to be, but mostly it's promoting things that you wouldn't readily have access to, like the inside scene,
the
VIP experience. Like if people want me to promote private party, I can do that. If people want me to promote a festival, I can do that, and I go up there and I show them the coolest things that I can find there. And then I put Monday Music Outreach underneath that umbrella, because I feel like that the viewers or the followers or whatever need to know that in order for music to survive in this community, you have to plant seeds early on.
Right, I agree.
And that's all I'm doing is planting seeds.
Right.
I'm planting seeds with kids. I'm planting seeds with adults. I'm showing people that there's music everywhere, all around us in this area. Quality venues, quality shows, amazing performers, lots of talent. And you don't have to travel.
Right.
You don't have to spend $100 on gas to see something really amazing.
Absolutely not. There's stuff everywhere. I mean, Louise and I have been all over East Texas since the voting opened. I think last count was 16 counties or something like that.
Oh.
And I know you've been to so many places as well. And I mean, you can't go more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes away without finding really, talented musicians.
I get about 10 to 20 invites every Friday and Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, to go to things, and I try to pick one or two to go to. But like this weekend, I totally did not go anywhere. Like I watched Netflix.
We went to, I think we stayed home Friday for the first time.
Thursday and Friday I went, but Saturday.
I think this past Friday was the first Friday in like 4 months that we stayed home. And then Saturday we went all the way to Lake Fork, So it's like, and
it's not so much that I don't want to go. It's just that like I'm not working right now.
Me either.
I'm truly just doing this. I'm waiting to start school.
Just finding that gas money and eating money and all of that to make things
I gig
work.
most of the time, so I could pay to go to somebody else's show.
Right. I know that's true. So I think the last thing we'll talk about might be the most important thing right now for you, possibly, is the pre-party jam and meet and greet.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
That's going to be August 25th at Charlie's Backyard Bar in Marshall, Texas. And it's going to be open jam or any artist who was nominated or in the finals to come out and take the stage, play a couple tunes, meet some other artists, mingle. Any fans can come out. It's totally free. And it's just a laid back, kind of like having it at your own house, except I don't have a house big enough to do this.
Right.
So it's to celebrate beforehand, because once the awards come up, everybody's going to be wanting to take pictures. They're going to have family members there. They're going to have whatever, and they're not going to have a real opportunity to mingle with the community.
This is also an opportunity for those that maybe can't afford to go to the awards. This is a pre-party where a lot of the same musicians are going to be there, the same finalists, and you don't have to pay to get in. There's going to be all kinds of cool things to do there. There's meet and greets and the open jam, and of course Jenn is presenting the whole event, and I know you're excited about that.
I am. I still got to figure out exactly how it's all going to run. Yes, but it's so hot. I don't know if I want to even dress up.
Well, we're going to have to take one for the team because there's video out there of us saying we're going to dress up, so we're going to have to dress up.
I got to go find something to wear. And then my class reunion is like the weekend before the awards, so I'm totally screwed in that area. I gotta find some clothes.
So guys out there, remember the dates. August 25th, Charlie's Backyard Bar in Marshall for the East Texas Music Awards pre-party and jam and meet and greet. And there might be some more stuff going on that night too. You just don't know. September 16th is the Music Awards themselves at K.E. Bushman's in Bullard at 6:30 that starts. 5:30 VIP people can get in, and you get what they call the VIP hour. Yeah. And there will also be a post-party celebration, which we have not announced a date for yet, but that will be in October sometime. So make sure you check out East Texas Music on Facebook. Make sure you check out ETX VIP on Facebook. Jenn Ford is her personal promotion and musician page. That's Jenn Ford with 2 N's, Jenn. And Jennifer Ford or Jenn Ford anywhere else, Instagram, Twitter. Just punch that in there and you'll see her face on there somewhere. Remember, you guys, our sponsor for this episode was Lone Star Music School right there in Longview, Texas at 313B High Street. Make sure you check out the Lone Star Music School right there on Facebook. Remember to always tune into the ETX Rocks. We appreciate you guys for listening. Remember to always support your local music, and ETX Rocks. Covering music-related content of all genres. If it filters through Eastern Texas, it's fair game. Y'all bring it. From Texarkana down to the coast and Dallas down to Houston and everything in between. We are ETX Rocks!